for someone. I thank my lucky stars I don't have to live without. Thank you, time. Thank you, space. I know I'm in the right place, and it feels too good to be true. It's so nice to meet you. So nice to meet. So nice to meet you.
Meet cute. It's when people tell their story of how they meet, and it's always really cute.
It's the moment when two main characters pass each other on the street and they realize they have the same umbrella.
It feels like definitely the background of like our story and romance and everything that's happened in our lives. My name is Elaine.
And my name is Nicole.
We're nesting partners.
Yeah, nesting partner is
Nesting
like,
partners.
yeah, a person that you're partners with that you nest with.
And you,
like a nest is your home,
your
right?
home,
So,
and how you build a home and how you
Mhm.
live in that home and how you treat that home. And I think living with someone is very complex,
Mhm.
and you can live with many people you don't like. But really, to make life enjoyable, it's really great to live with someone that it works.
Yeah.
And that is like a sense of love that is really cool.
Elaine and I have lived together for, I think, 9 years now. For me, it's a larger term of not just commitment, but like love and endearment, where if Elaine and I are out and people ask what our associations are to each other, she's not my friend and she's not my roommate. She's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Roommate
so-
feels cheap and like not as true. Honestly, if I really had to say, it would be 10 Things I Hate About You. I think I absolutely watch that movie at least once a year, at least. I never get bored of it. Heath Ledger all the way, Julia Stiles. I love that movie. It'll always forever reign in my heart as like supreme.
Yeah, Interstellar. I think that
Oh, that's a
I would say
beautiful
that
one.
Interstellar is one of my favorite love stories, primarily because it's between a father and a daughter, and it's expansive of time and space that we know it. And I find it's hard to have a love story between a non-sexual main characters, especially when it becomes a blockbuster. So I think that's something that should be noted.
I am a mask and puppetry artist, and I get to call that a real job. I run the Canadian Academy of Mask and Puppetry, which is something that I run with Peter Bulkwill, and we foster education and opportunities for people to raise mask and puppetry or clown projects. Within that, though, I'm a real active artist. I make masks, I make puppet shows. I'm currently leading dance parties, and I'm very passionate about those. Makes me really proud because I get to support everyone in that field and like make really cool things in Calgary.
I identify as a visual artist and a producer in Calgary, and then I also have a job with AHS. I do a lot of focus with the creativity and the event space within the Calgary and Southern Alberta specifically. The projects I'm working on that I'm the most excited about, I would say, is Bin Diver and the umbrella of the projects under that, and Lilo Music Festival that I co-founded with Summer Dollside. And Bin Diver is a project that was started with my partner, Tasha Schmaltz. It's a focus on diverting materials that are going into waste transfer sites and being able to house them for local Alberta or really anybody, artists that want access to materials to create things. So it's education and teaching about a circular economy and being able to upcycle anybody else's trash or unused stuff into art and creative purposes specifically, making sure that if you don't have access and you have that will or that creative spark, then there is a way and an ability to do so. So Bin Diver is also located outside of Bicycle, which is now, it's north of Calgary. So I spend a lot of my time in love with the prairies and the wheatgrass, for sure. The Lila Music Festival, that is a festival that we hold in the village of Milo that is south of Calgary. So it's essentially in between High River and Vulcan. Milo is a village of 90 people that sits on the side of McGregor Lake. The Lila Music Festival is based at a church that me and a group of pals purchased at the beginning of COVID. It's a decommissioned Lutheran church that we renovated and turned into like a cabin of sorts, or a community center that is available for, our community and artists to be able to visit. And the Lila Music Festival is based outside of the church, but then it also has a stage downtown in Milo that's in partnership and with the village of Milo and the bar, and
Takes over the whole town.
Yeah, we take over the whole town, and it's a musical
Cool.
base of psychedelic rock and some country and roots, and just little vibrant space there. And it's about invigorating the prairies, bringing the love back to southern Alberta, supporting the town of Milo, and just bringing revitalizing the small towns where we have like that generational shift. Small towns, there's a lot of people who are aging, and it's bringing the youth back into not just the prairies but the small towns, and it's been a lot of fun.
The first time I heard of Nikki was through my friend Jamie Lougheed. And I think the very first time I ever actually saw you was at Jamie's house, and you were at the table, and we met each other very formally. And that didn't really mean anything at that time.
It was really brief.
It was very brief. And then there's a music festival called Frog Fest that we both found ourselves at that summer. Nikki was involved with it much more. I think it was my very first Frog Fest. And I think we just decided suddenly on like the Sunday night, we're gonna, without even really discussing much, we're gonna move in with each other.
I don't have any memories of really interacting with Elaine that weekend whatsoever. My only memory is connecting. We were on the stage and we were in the middle of tearing down, and we were just talking about our lives, and I had just come back from New Zealand and you came back from traveling, and we were having a mutual conversation of that we were looking for a space to live, and we both had a similar vision of it wanting to be a creative hub and an artistic sanctuary. And I remember holding something, and then she was like walking in front of me, and I was like, yeah, like we're gonna live together. And Elaine's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm actually, yeah, like we will do this. And she's like, yep. I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yeah. So I was like, this is happening. And then we didn't talk for the rest of the summer.
No.
Like, maybe it was like I reached out like
Once
a
or
month and a
twice.
half later and was like, is this still? And they're like, yep. I'm like, okay, it's happening. And that it was like really,
No
it was really
concept.
weird. It was very bizarre.
There was no concept
Yeah.
of who each other really was.
I found the house. Elaine didn't even get to tour it or see it
Nope.
until the day she moved in, and
That's funny, that's true.
and I never saw her before that, but she showed up on the day of move-in and just never left. The home that we live in, so this is very lovingly identified as the Love Shack, which was the name of the house that we inherited from the woman that lived in the other house prior to us. And it was very important to her that we understood that it was a Love Shack and it needs to still be the Love Shack. So when we moved from that house to this house, the people, friends of ours that moved into the old house, did not want to keep the name the Love Shack. I told them it was important, but they didn't. And this
didn't
one
get
often, this house that we're in now was like maybe the Love Shack 2, or like Love Shack Reincarnated, or the Love Shed or something. But the Love Shack is essentially just where like Elaine and I will be bouncing around.
Wherever we live, that's where that is.
Yeah, the Love Shack.
My first impression of Nikki, because I met Nikki, her being a production manager and obviously like doing Frog Fest, or like being very diligently responsible. And so I remember thinking like, I hope this person doesn't think that they're gonna be my mother. When we first started living with each other, there were ebbs and flows of growing pains, but that was never a thing that ever actually ended up being any kind of issue of a problem. But I remember thinking that. I was like, I wondered if you were going to production manage me.
My first impression of Elaine was maybe the exact opposite of Elaine's to mine. But I was concerned about maybe the chaos, the creative explosion, which is like something that I really value. But I would say for sure that I had controlling tendencies and still do. And it's something I've like put into my pocket and like really worked on compartmentalizing. I wanted to get a cutlery organizer, and Elaine was like adamantly against it because it was just like a drawer of just stuff thrown into it, and like spoons and forks and everything is just like combined. She was like adamantly against it, and I just was like, I don't know if this is the hill I want to die on today, so we're not going to get a cutlery organizer.
But we now have a cutlery organizer. I will say,
we have a cutlery organizer, and now we share the same fridge and we share certain things. But I do need like my own things like lined up in a certain way. Otherwise, like nothing makes sense to me. Yeah.
Kensington to me, as a Calgarian who, I'm born and raised here, and it was always the coolest neighborhood. It was always like, I always envied the idea of living in Kensington.
If I'm living in the city, I will be in Sunnyside. There is nowhere else I would trade or want to move to. Like this is it for me here. I moved here when I started going to ACAD. It really formulated who I wanted to be and who I currently am. So I attribute a lot of that to Sunnyside and to the community here. And I've lived in 5 houses within a 2-block radius of each other. Sunnyside and promotes a lot of foot traffic.
A lot of foot traffic. And so we just get to see a lot of people. A lot of people know our house, so they like talk to us a lot.
It's a characteristic home in the community. It's like
it has waves.
They were done for a stage design for Frog Fest a number of years ago now. The theme was Surfing Safari, which was a nod to the Beach Boys. It was my design, and I oversaw the art team. So it was a multiple of people that painted them, and we used them for the stage. And then really they came back with us that year, and I was like upset that they came back to the house because they were supposed to stay on the land. And I was like, where are we going to store these? And it was just in a whim of like one day I just drove into the house to get them out of the way.
Yeah.
And they've been there ever since. And
I love them. My friend up in Edmonton had a friend that was this old man, and in his house he just had mobiles everywhere, and he would just go for walks and find all the stuff on a walk and then come home and make a mobile, and that was that walk. And I was like really inspired, and so I was like, I'm gonna make mobiles. I started doing that just based out of things that I was finding, and just making art when I'm bored, and making art to be happy, and making art to pass time, and making art to just make my yard interesting. And flow art for me is really important. I think that also just came out of an impulse of like being at this house a lot, being in my backyard, and like doing crafts became, at least over the pandemic and then through some health crises, was like
survival
everything.
Mechanism.
Yeah. It was like survival. Yeah.
I always wanted a camper van. Her name is Skylar. She is my baby. I have these memories of being younger, and if people were talking about, their jobs and getting married and having children, I was like, I'm gonna grow up and be an artist. I'm gonna have a camper van. I'm gonna travel the world. So I've had Skylar a long time. It's about 10 years. Skylar's traveled with me a long time through many different chapters of my life, and different partners and different expressions. And I love that van a lot. I used to say to people, I'm like, if you start pulling out pictures of your children, I'm going to start showing you pictures of my camper van renovation. It's been my pushback on maybe the world and the different aspects of how I've been told I'm supposed to live, and what you're supposed to achieve as a woman, and different things like that. So it's become like a symbol of strength. Yeah, and I can take her anywhere, and she always starts like just so beautiful. There's a local artist, Reese, who is a really amazing painter. Reese helped me paint Skylar, so I will attribute the design and the color choices with him researching the 70s color palette and being able to pull off of the original deckling that's on Skylar. The community will shift and change, and people will move and people will come, and there's some sort of like core feeling that often stays the same, and it is a community within a community, and it's a little like sub-micro experience and
almost like a little separate part of the city. I don't know, it's like really fun to live here. It's like we have this little niche romantic kind of love home, but it's like sometimes literally looking out of our yards, like we're watching the world kind of go past us, you know, and like if there's ever an event in Princess Island, we see the incoming and offcoming of that event. And I don't know, it's become more than just even like a community.
I want to say the things I love about the setting and the thematic experience of where it is that we live in Sunnyside and Kensington has to do with the age, right? So it's a part of the historical story of Calgary. But then also because in the suburban sprawl, because of the different, the red tape and the bureaucracy of new development, you're stuck within a color palette of about 5 different colors you have to paint your home. But then after so many years, when that lease is let go of, then you have more of a creative say of what color you can paint and stuff. And that's a big part of why I feel that, you know, Kensington, Hillhurst, Sunnyside, and then other of the River Valley communities are so artistically in their own expression because we can do whatever we want. It's a pretty romantic community, platonic or not. It's just very poetic and
you get to really know the people around. There actually used to be a lot of construction around here over last summer, and we put a picnic table out there that all the construction workers go there every lunch and sit, and they eventually, like, you know, would be out. Anyways, but they got to know us, but they were like all these gentlemen from like Nigeria, and they would bring us food then. And so it was like a really fun, like they would like share, they were like, oh my gosh, and they would like really be like inviting us over. So it like, I'd go to like the picnic table and they're like, try. And it was like, oh, this is neat. And I love that this is happening. And I don't know where this cross division otherwise would happen.
Yeah, it was the Sunnyside and Kensington, the river flood mitigation program. Within that experience, the workers and
so fun.
The moments in between were pretty funny. I think because this is perceived as the artistic and thematically beautiful neighborhood, same with Inglewood, that on the weekends, I often tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, whoever you see out and about on the weekends, none of those people live here. So all the people that live in these communities, we hide from the weekend because it's so busy, there's so many people. And I do feel it's people from the suburban sprawl then coming into downtown to feel that culture and to feel the creativity, and then to take it back to their families and their communities. I lived here through the flood, and that was a big moment in my life as well, as losing a lot of stuff. Having my community come together and help me through that, and yeah, it's Sunnyside is a huge part of who it is that I am. I would always say that my favorite spot in Kensington would be the Roastery, just because it's really the heart and pulse
a real heart
of the 10th Street, and everyone knows the Roastery. And if you don't know the Roastery, you should know the Roastery.
You can smell it on a Sunday morning. They roast all their coffee on a Sunday morning, which is always great. My favorite spot is this location, legit. But if I had to pick my second one, from this sidewalk, if you walk, you hit like the path that then takes you up the hill. And then you get up right to a ridge, and it's a dog park up there. I love that ridge. I go up there so often. I'll go up there in the middle of the night. I'll go up there early in the day. I just love that from here, You're right by the river, and literally 10-minute walk, you have a gorgeous scenic view of like the whole valley.
My relationship with Elaine and what she means to me is, beyond words, really. It's surpasses the regular friendship, or just like I said before, I don't identify to her as a roommate. I didn't realize that it was going to be such a life-changing relationship when we first met and when we first moved into each other, with each other. I thought it was, another stepping stone. So I'd say, like, when Elaine and I found each other, we found home within, a chaotic world, and a place that started to make sense when other places didn't. And she's very much like a mirror to not only my behavior, but the behavior of the world. And a lot of my internal commentary is stuff that I can share with Elaine that maybe I don't share with other people, or just don't feel that the dialogue that will derive from that is a nurturing value, where with Elaine it is. And I can say anything or express the most like abstract thought. And with Elaine, like, I can say anything and they understand really where I'm coming from. And it's been a really valuable place and a really valuable person to be able to have those conversations with, and have the hard conversations in an easy way, where prior to this relationship, I don't know if I've ever actually experienced honest communication, and to be able to express my frustrations and even the smallest things that don't even make sense, and be able to say it and have someone safely receive it. I've never really in my life met anyone else more open to human experience and human behavior. So it's been like there's no word for the value that I've found in this connection.
I think the older I get, I realize how there's just certain people in the world that you're going to, for some reason, have a star-crossed connection with. And you should cherish those moments, because it doesn't happen often and it doesn't happen easily. And it doesn't happen right away, because there's been growing pains. But I learned, it's definitely my 20s, that I started to love people because of just who they were in my life. And Nikki has definitely become a person who is, I wouldn't be able to imagine, yeah, you're a pillar to me. Anyways, no.
Aww, you're crying.
Cry. Yeah, well, but I think it's someone that, is someone that'll be with me forever. So,
Now you're gonna make me cry.
So nice to meet. You are someone I'm absolutely sure about. You are someone I thank my lucky stars I don't have to live without. Thank you, time. Thank you, space. I know I'm in the right place, and it feels too good to be true. So nice to meet you. So nice to meet. So nice to meet